Okay. Rockfin. Go live there.
I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right, guys, welcome and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I have special guests with me tonight. Jett is here, and also Tara Reade. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. We'll get started with you, Jessie.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm Jett. I'm part of the INN news network, our music director, as it were, and I do the show American Tradition every other Tuesday. I'm a musician first and foremost, and I switched to strictly political music at the beginning of 2020 and found family on Twitter and haven't looked back. And now I've put out, I think, 7 things so far, about 5 hours worth of material since then. So yeah, I've been busy.
And you did the March for Medicare for All song last year too with Awkward.
Yeah, which was awesome. That was the first time I've been asked to, put what I do to a specific cause. And Awkward and I had also done a song for 10 Demands previously, and we're going to be doing an EP together soon sometime that I'm finally getting around to producing. So
awesome. Tara?
Hey, yeah, I'm Tara Reade. I have a show called The Politics of Survival, and I am part of the INN network as well. They are really helpful with not only lifting independent creators' content, but also they help my show with producing and engineering. So that's really key. And Jett actually did the theme song for The Politics of Survival, and he did your theme song too, right, Sabby?
Yep.
Yeah. And he is becoming such a star that he's actually coming. We're doing the Center for Political Alliance, Innovation actually asked me to speak on, we're going to be talking about anti-imperialism. So pushing back on imperialism in Chicago on August 6th. And Caleb Malpen invited me from there, and he also is going to have Jett do some music, so that's going to be really fun. And I'm in company with Garland Nixon and Dan Kovalek and some others, Peter Coffin, I believe, and some others. And so that is going to be in Chicago, August 6th, 1 p.m. in Deer Park, Illinois. I know that that the Center for Political Innovation needs some donations to make this happen and to, make it, really pop. So Caleb is in Newsweek today because Ukrainian government decided that he was one of the purveyors of Russian disinformation, along with Tulsi Gabbard and some other notable people. So anyway, we are proud of Caleb. He's in good company. And we're all getting on lists, I guess,
right?
Either deplatformed, censored, or on lists. So that
doing something, right?
Yeah. So Jesse, you're going to be playing at that, right?
I am. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which for me, for what I do, playing for this room is better than playing for a room of music critics and label executives, because they wouldn't touch me because of my material. I wouldn't even bother. But this is when I saw, obviously getting to meet Tara in person and hear her speak, and Garland Nixon. That's huge. So I would really so excited to get to be a part of this. I'm really just beyond stoked. So
Yeah, that's going to be really
Yeah,
fun.
this is great. So for those who are not aware, Caleb Maupin, he's been on here a couple of times. He does have an organization called the Center for Political Innovation. They do really great work. They actually had a similar event like the one that's coming up in Chicago, and they did this in Texas. And I know Jackson Hinkle was one of the speakers at that event, along with Samira Khan. And I think Caleb's goal is to kind of take this across the country in different cities. But at this particular event, it'll be in Chicago, August 6th. It's called Unite Against the Imperialists. And doors open at 1 p.m. And so the speakers are Dan Kovalik, Tara Reade, Garland Nixon, and Peter Coffin. So that should be a really cool event if any of you are in the Chicago area. Tara, have you mentioned this to Hard Lens Media yet?
Actually, yes, I'm going to be live on their show. I believe Friday at 4. So I'll be on Hard Lens Media. So talking about kids. And in fact, I was saying to him, look, I've been to Italy. I kind of know about pizza. I know Fee's been talking smack. So we're going to have like a continuation of some really deep analysis of Chicago pizza. And so because I'm there and I've never really had it. I mean, I lived there as a kid, but I don't really remember.
I think you mean deep dish analysis.
Yeah, I lived in Wisconsin, so not the same as Chicago, but close enough. But yeah, so we'll see. And then we're going to talk about the Bears and then probably a little bit of imperialism stuff too.
That should be fun. Yeah, for those of you who are not aware, Kit from Hard Lens Media swears that Chicago has the best pizza. And Fee from the Convo Couch said, no, New York has the best pizza. But I've had both. I want to say this to Kit, but New York has the better pizza.
New York has the better pizza. Oh. You know what? There's going to be like all kinds of Twitter flurry and controversy.
I was about to say, yeah, it's going to get ugly. I hate to say it, but I'm a New York person too. I really am. So. Sorry, I love you, Kit. It's nothing personal.
I love you, Kit, but sorry, Napoli, Italy has the best pizza. Sorry, but whatever.
I think they're both great, but what I found with Chicago pizza, we ordered a whole pie. There were 3 of us, so we're like, okay, we'll just get like one large pizza. I could only eat one slice because it's the deep dish and it's so thick.
It's like a casserole. It's hearty.
Huge. It's huge. Yep. And I was like, I want more, but I can't eat anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is where you can donate to this event, you guys. Caleb did post this as well. Be there. Donations to support the event can be sent to this is Cash App. So $ CPI events. So definitely help support this. This is how Caleb funds these events. He did the same thing for the one in Texas as well. So I'll go ahead and put the Cash App in the chat there for you guys. But definitely check it out. I mean, I'm not familiar with Dan and Peter, but obviously Tara's been on here before. I know Tara. Garland Nixon has also been on here a couple times before. This is going to be a really like lit event. So if you're in the area, definitely check it out.
Yep. I'm going to have my books there left out when the truth doesn't fit in. So I'll be peddling some of my books and signing them in person. Nice. So I even got a little special pen. So yeah, you have to check that out. And Jesse, are you gonna bring your CDs or your?
I actually don't have any like physical media. It's all. I mean, I wish I did. Don't get me wrong. Especially if I could afford to get myself printed on vinyl. That's a goal. But as always, my everything on Bandcamp is free. People can choose to pay if they like, but I never wanted like music or the message in the music to be blocked by money, because obviously money's extremely tight right now, if not non-existent for people. So yeah, the most important thing has always just been getting it heard. So the music is free unless you choose to pay something.
Yeah, it definitely helped Caleb out too, you guys, because he was one of the ones I think was hit with, it was either his Venmo or his PayPal. I forget which one.
Yeah, I think his PayPal got frozen.
PayPal.
Yeah. So definitely help him out here with the
that. Yeah, like so many journalists. Yeah. Every journalist I've had on my show for the last couple of months has been demonetized in some way or another. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I almost fell for an email scam because it said your PayPal's been locked. And I was like, oh, it's I had a good run, but it ended up being bogus, but I almost clicked on it.
I wanted to add too, because I know both of you are a part of N. Indy Left, I think, is in the chat along with Colin too, I believe.
Nice.
Let's talk a little bit about N and explain to people what you guys have going on over there.
Tara, you want to go first?
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, Indy Left has been amazing. He's been wonderful and supportive, and producing the shows. And as Reef kind of magically makes the streams happen, I'm not even sure. And I know, Sabby, you do your own. I can do one stream, but I think multitasking is not there yet for me. But so credit to you for doing that. But they do a lot of the engineering and producing, and have been helping in so many ways, lifting the content. I'm pretty shadow banned, and most of my stuff, like I had a bunch of videos from YouTube get pulled down, and then I appealed and got them back up. But like, it's really important to have this community. It's a community of content creators, and we don't agree on every single thing and every single issue, but we all overall agree on the bigger picture, which is the elites are trying to basically destroy all our lives. So we all agree on that. So we're trying to, have different views, different content, and lift up each other, as well as, so I think Indy's been at the heart of that. And it's really cool to see it grow. We've got Rumble, Rockfin, going on. And like when I do a show, I'm up on 11 channels and 8 platforms. Politics of Survival. And, my show got pulled down with the RT thing, with the RT censorship. Spotify and Google pulled it out. So if it hadn't been for INN, I don't think I'd have a show. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
That's right. And here is, so this is the channel here, Indie News Network. Definitely check them out. I think, how many people do you have a part of the network now? Is it like 10 or?
I think we're 20. I thought we were low 20s. Yeah. When you consider, like, we have several people like Greg, Big Mad Crab, who is a phenomenal musician who does graphics work for us. Jimmy Sunderland is with us for graphics. And we have a lot of people that do, production and just all the engineering and everything it takes. Like for my show, Indy actually co-hosts with me. So we end up doing, a few songs or spoken word pieces of mine that kind of fit a general theme. And we break down the lyrics and, any of the kind of deep dive moments that I tend to pack an awful lot into like a 5-minute song, that it's so nice to be able to sit down with people and like really go into what I meant in some stuff, because I'm in no way discreet in my songs. I really pack a lot of my political analysis that I would into a podcast or a stream into my lyrics. So it's been really fun. He's been the best person to get to hang out and do this with. He's been my Ed McMahon, and it's been phenomenal.
And there's also this guy, Joe. Can you guys talk a little bit about Joe? For those of you who are on Twitter, if you've seen those videos where it's like different snippets that like people like Jimmy Dore will say versus TYT and all these other people. I think Jimmy's actually shown some of these clips on his show. Yeah. Joe actually makes those videos, and he's a part of N too.
He is. He joined with us fairly recently, and yet his content is just insanely good. I mean, it really does piece together great perspectives from so many different people across the whole spectrum of independent media. It's I've yet to see a video of his that I wasn't just my jaw open by the end of it. It's so good. And I've been lucky enough to be in one of them too. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah, he's awesome. I'm actually going to play one of those really quick. The one is Jimmy Dore right. This is the one. Is Jimmy Dore right winger? I'm going to play this one really quick.
That was Jimmy Dore endorsing Donald Trump as the anti-war option if he ends up running for re-election, I guess.
And now someone will clip this like they did last time to make it look like somehow I'm telling people to vote for DeSantis. And which I expect people to do. What I don't expect is for grown-ups to fall for it.
He avoided Trump stories like it was the plague during the Trump administration.
First thing we got right here. First of all, we have a failure to communicate. This is your party. This is exactly who you guys have been since Nixon. This is the 30 years of the Southern strategy.
Because now your main job is to fillet Republicans all day long. I hope you're having fun.
The Southern strategy, which was invented by Richard Nixon, which was just scaring white people about black people to get them to vote for Republicans.
But over the years, his content started to shift. He never criticized Republicans.
I don't criticize Democrats because I favor Republicans. I criticize Democrats because they favor Republicans.
But the reason why Jimmy Dore is deceiving his audience is because he wants them to vote Republican.
We have a failure to communicate.
He wants them to support Donald Trump if he runs in 2024.
And now you know why you have to stop voting for Republicans and Democrats.
That's lying to your audience on purpose for money like a whore.
All he did was focus on Democrats.
Like a whore.
Nothing has changed because of Trump.
But now he's going to help you out and just admit,
Like a whore.
yeah, I think that maybe you should consider supporting Republicans.
It's time to start voting third party, no matter what the third party is. You got to stop giving your vote to these two corrupt, murderous parties.
But the idea that you can sort of just quantify that Donald Trump was less pro-war than Joe Biden is just absurd.
Who pulled us out of Afghanistan? I'm just interested about that question. Which president? Which president?
President Joe Biden, when pulling out of Afghanistan while committing billions in funds to troops in Ukraine, Israel, and Somalia. So we're in forever war. It's never stopping. This is a death economy.
His whole railing against the duopoly and not voting out of fear, the lesser of two evils, was really just to get a way to get people to not vote for the best shot at getting left-wing proposals enacted.
What the fuck?
I just don't think, what's the worldview?
What the fuck? Are you fucking on drugs? Blunders.
Earmuffs.
He's sitting there trying to help the Republican Party in every single way like a whore because he loves Trump so much and he thinks he's so anti-war. Like a whore.
You would think it would be 57 progressives voting against it. But that's what I mean about the flip. Now, instead of having 57 progressives vote against war, we have 57 right-wing conservatives vote against war.
I mean, if you think Jimmy Dore is a leftist at this point, you need to get your head checked. He wants to sheepdog people into the Republican Party.
Like a whore.
How you still don't think he's a con man? You just want a fake hero. I get it. Everybody wants a hero. I wanted Bernie. Bernie was my hero in 2015, 16. I know what that's like. But you got to face the music when you see who they really are. Bernie has proved over and over again he won't actually cross the establishment. So does Donald Trump.
So so Joe, who's a part of it, and he makes those clips and he puts them on Twitter a lot. So definitely check that out if you're on Twitter. But I don't know how he creates these. I don't know where he gets all these clips from because I'm like, some of the stuff is going way back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny. It's funny.
It's beyond funny.
But I also know one of the things that you guys do over at N, and I think this is pretty cool too. There's a show called How Did We Miss That? And this is the one where, let me go back here. This is the one where I usually see Colin on this show and Reef, but every now and then I'll see other members from N kind of take their turns, like coming into that show too.
Yeah, that's the fun part. Sometimes we'll just kind of have, people hop in and out of different shows, just depending on who's available or who's interested. And yeah, they do a really good job of finding stories that somehow slip through the cracks on really busy news weeks, and it's still really, really relevant stuff. That I've been really that's one of my favorite things we do.
And Tara, you have a show on N, and it's also on your own channel, but it's called The Politics of Survival. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Politics of Survival with Tara Reade started with me actually doing it with RT. And then, as you know, I mentioned earlier, it got censored and pulled down. And so it's been reimagined, if you will. So just recently today, or yesterday, excuse me, days are blending. Alina Lipp came on, and she's the German journalist who's facing prison time in Germany for accurately, discussing Ukraine and giving a different lens to the experience of the people there and exposing the Ukrainian military for the war crimes that they're committing and shooting civilians. And so that was a really heart-wrenching, really interesting interview. Of course, it's being a bit shadow banned. When I tried to share it, I think it just felt, I'm having trouble. But she actually shared it over in Europe and Russia, and it's gotten 12,000 views. So, but I don't know.
Wow.
here though, because then when I look at the Rumble, it says it says a nominal amount.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm trying to raise up. I've had Wyatt Reade. I've had Kit Clarenberg. He discussed his really great reporting with Max Blumenthal when they exposed that MI6 was colluding with Paul Mason to try to bring down certain media outlets like Consortium News and Mint News and Press News, and then also Gray Zone. And that was really good. So it's interesting. I've kind of fallen into this thing where I've been trying to talk a lot about censorship and the different ways it's happening. Ava Bartlett was a great interview. And she was very informative about what's really going down in Ukraine, because she's there on the ground, boots on the ground. And she's on a kill list for the Ukrainian military. She has a Canadian U.S. passport, and no one here is talking about it. In fact, all they did was a hit piece on her. So I'm trying to raise up stories that normally aren't being told. Matthew Ho, who's running, who just, for the Green Party, and they got pulled off the ticket with some fuckery by the Democratic Party. If I can say that word, but I guess I can because I just saw a video clip where he did. But, so I'm trying to just bring to light some of those geopolitical things, international and censorship, but also I raise up survivor stories too. And I've had, I try to give them space and lift their stories when I can, if they want. So.
Right. And Jesse, okay, so for those who don't know, if you've been with me for a while, you may have seen Jesse I did a New Year's Eve stream. It was like an all-day stream with KRTD Media, which I think they're Kerberos Media now. Jesse came on to sing for you guys for like an hour or so. And there's this song that you have about the squad. I think you wrote this one after Force the Vote.
Yeah, that squad one, God, that was probably beginning of 2021. It was shortly after the inauguration that I wrote that. Yeah, it was called #SquadGoals.
Yeah. I really love that one. I was like, oh my God, this song is like really, really good.
I like your Susan Sarandon song. That's
I thought for sure once I was blaming her for wildfires and floods that people would know I was kidding, but people didn't know I was kidding. This is Twitter. Let's be honest.
Seriously.
There were several people, that ran with it until someone was, this is a joke. I think he's being funny. Or at least trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Shout out here from Colin. This is towards you, Jesse. Brother Jesse, ask Sabby if you can reveal the alternate opening you made for her channel.
I would love to hear it. Okay, yeah. When Sabby had asked me to do her theme, the first thing I used was some clips from her Medicare for All speech in Boston last year, and there was some really great fiery stuff, like about having medical bills piling up, and I put it to a beat that was a little foreboding, a little too much, and she was like, I like this, but I want something that that fits a little better. And one of the things I'd heard when I was watching, I wish I could remember what episode, was right before you went live. You went doobie doobie doo, and I'm like, oh man, I was like, can I use this? I know you didn't know you were live, but can I please use this? And the rest it happened so quickly. The song wrote itself around the doobie doobie doo.
It's amazing. I love your opening. It's so good. It's so good.
I love seeing people in chat all fire off a doobie doobie doo in the beginning, like that. It became such a favorite. It makes me so happy. Seriously.
Yeah, for people who don't know, that's where that came from. For those of you that are new, that are joining on, that came from Jesse created that. There is something else I wanted to talk to you two about. I just found out about before I went live, so I didn't have this as one of my topic discussions. But John mentioned this in the chat as well. Thank you for the super chat, John. Have you all heard that Kim Iverson is no longer on Rising? So I just saw that on Twitter right before I went live. And I don't know the reasoning behind it. I do know she did tweet that she was supposed to be on that episode that they did recently with Dr. Fauci. And I'll be careful what I say here, but with him. And the next thing, she knew she wasn't on it. So I don't know if it was her decision or not, but
she is such a powerful voice, on Rising. Like, there seems to be, they're so careful usually. You know, Katie Halper pushes the envelope. She's fun to watch when she's on there, when she's on Rising. But like what I noticed with Kim is she really, like, for instance, talking about Ukraine, she just laid it on the line and like really says it as it is and doesn't hold back. So that's a voice that we're going to miss if she's not. I mean, she'll have her own show hopefully, but it's not clear by her tech. I mean, I saw her Twitter, but it's not clear how they parted ways, if it was mutual or one side, but they obviously have parted ways. And I think that's a huge loss because that show needs a little bit. They need a little saltiness. They're so bland. They need to, like, you know, they're so careful to just like only go so far, but not really lay it on the line. And she was really one of the reasons why I watched.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, she pushes back more, and I think that, you know, she's had really good takes when it comes to foreign policy. So I think they needed some of that like fire and some of that spice like on that show. But from what I've heard about that, I mean, it's corporate. Like from what I've heard about Rising is like they really don't care. It seems like to me if they lose people or not.
But, you know, if she lost her job and it wasn't her choice, I really feel for her because this is not the time for that stuff to be happening when we're in an economic downturn. And I believe it was on Twitter. She announced she was just married. I mean, she has a lot going on. And you know, I hate to see people losing their incomes in such a way when they're trying to make a stand about a good thing. She should have been interviewing Fauci. And I'm just going to put it out there. I mean, maybe I'll get some pushback. But the interview that I saw with Fauci, they didn't follow up. They didn't push him. At all. They just, there was no, and she'd been on there, he would have been called to task.
That's a very different interview.
Oh, yes.
It would have been, she wouldn't have made it a hostile interview, but she would have challenged him. And it would have been much more robust. And we would have actually, I'm so sick of watching interviews where you don't really get any information. Like if I have someone on and we're talking and having a discussion, I want them to bring up what they want to bring up, but also let's go. Let's go.
Yep.
So
Plus,
Baron, my guy
said, "Here it comes." Predict the downfall.
I'll see you in Chicago, Farron. Farron just moved to Chicago.
Hello, Farron. Yeah, some of her most of her like radars have the most views. Like some of her radars have gone viral.
Yep.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she's articulate and she's really good at the drop of a dime. And she would have really, I would have loved to have seen the interview with Fauci if she had done it. That would have been an interview.
Yeah.
Well, especially since he announced that he's retiring. So this might be your last chance.
Yeah, dude, you're not going to Martha's Vineyard and playing golf, Fauci. We're going to need, we've got stuff to say. Yeah.
I know. I'll
Pfizer sponsored condo or whatever. Sorry, I won't get you.
Oh boy.
Sabby's like, oh no.
Oh boy. I'll show people, for people who are wondering, because I know not everyone in the chat is on Twitter. So I'll show people what she posted here. So I'll just share this really quick. Because I literally saw this like right before I went live and I was like, so there were two tweets. This is one of them that says, I am no longer on Hills TV Live's Rising. Stay tuned for an update on my independent uncensored channel here. And that's her YouTube channel. And then there was another tweet, this one right here. I wanted to be a part of this interview. It's a shame I wasn't able there to get the answers we all deserve. And that's this one here with Fauci. So I guess they made sure that she would not be a part of this interview, which is unfortunate.
It is.
So that's that.
And then maybe as audience members, what we need to do is boycott and let them know why we're boycotting. Right. You know, that if they're not going to do real news, if they're not going to do real information, what's the point? Like, they're supposed to be alternative. They're supposed to be in a space where we're supposed to be questioning, you know, and instead they're kind of trying to walk this corporate line of you can talk about this, but not too much. You can talk about Ukraine, but you can't talk about how it's a proxy war against Russia, where we're using Ukraine as a battering ram to try to weaken Russia, and we're not. So anyway.
Right. I know, I did ask her last year, the first time she came on, this was right after she started with Rising. I did ask her if she had thought about moving to DC to be on the set. And she said she thought about it, but, decided not to. I guess it's a good thing that she did.
Yeah.
Farron said, when I saw Kim about 3 months ago in DC, she said she was holding her breath every day, feeling any day she was going to be let go. Sad.
Damn.
So I've heard weird things about that show. I've heard that people don't know if they're there full time or how long they're going to be there or not. It's weird.
Yeah. I don't know about all that, but I think it's a shame that you have to be so measured when you're trying to, just simply bring about, information. She's been a really good voice for questioning. Matt Taibbi said it well, and I said this on my show the other day. There's a quote from him that stayed with me all year, and it was about COVID and the whole thing. He just said, "We're not even allowed to have the discussion anymore."
That's right.
That's what we are. And if shows like Rising decide we can't have the discussion, what the fuck? What are we doing?
Exactly. Yep.
Why?
That's how it goes. I know. I had that conversation with Jimmy Dore as well. I explained to him because he was like, why aren't more people talking about it? And I told him, I was like, those of us with smaller channels, we can't. They'll just
picks you up and pulls you out.
Honestly, that's kind of the blessing for me of keeping all my hot takes in song form, because maybe people just don't go through them that much. It does take a while to get my lyrics processed through Spotify and stuff. So there have been a couple albums I am like, we'll see if it goes up, but so far everything's gone up. But I feel like if I was posting my lyrics in tweet form, I would have lost my account by now.
You bring up a good point, Sabby, because big tech is got their boots on all our throats so badly. I mean, there was a story I heard where someone was getting a PayPal and from a friend, this is just not even someone well-known, and someone put Cuba in the message thing, and they shut down their PayPal for a while and they couldn't get the money. There's words, there's keywords. Same thing with YouTube. Now that's why it's really cool. INN is really good lifting us up, but also we're getting on different platforms. We're getting on Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, although Twitch does censor, but Rumble doesn't, Rockfin doesn't,
Odyssey.
It doesn't so far. They censor RT, but they don't censor a lot of people. So I don't know.
Right. And I've been trying to get more people to make sure they join those platforms as well. I have gotten feedback from audience members that have told me they don't really like Rockfin that much because of the chat feature. I guess it's not the best. And then the app, I know some people told me they've had problems on the app. More people are going over to Rumble, and Odyssey too can be a hit or miss. I think people are just so conditioned to using YouTube, to be honest.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but then once you get your YouTube demonetized and deplatformed, then that's it. Mine's not there yet. I don't have to worry, but I know, it's a matter of time. I've had a few videos pulled down and I'm not even monetized.
Yeah.
But then you see Jackson Hinkle lost his whole channel and he's banned for good. So
yeah. Did he put? I'll have to double check that. I know he removed his videos to try to prevent getting another strike. He said, I'm just going to take them all off. So he removed them. So the channel's still there, but I think he's still under that suspension.
Right. He's demonetized. Yeah.
Yep.
And for those creators that were actually making a living, like he was, I think, that's huge to me because what do you do now? Because although Rumble is up and going, it's not quite there with the amount, I guess, like YouTube does.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, but we'll get it there. And hopefully Sabby, nothing I said will get us.
Well, one more thing I do want to ask you guys about in reference to what is going to happen in the midterms 2022 in November. So obviously we see the Democratic Party is trying to use Roe v. Wade to help them get or win basically in the midterms, because they're right now, it doesn't look like they're going to win. But I've been looking at the numbers recently, and actually, even after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, it actually did not move the needle that much in favor of the Democratic Party.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to
raise 800 million though. Did they raise 800 million? Is that true after Roe v. Wade? Is that the
raised? I don't even know if that amount is correct. They could be exaggerating. But I do know, yes, they did raise a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that they're actually going to win.
Right.
Because you think back to like Bernie Sanders had the most money in 2020, and we see how that went.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just, and who's this money coming from? Did they raise a lot of money because it came from corporations? Because it came from billionaires? I didn't give them any money.
Right. I know. I think that I mean, my hope is that the Democrats get brought to task, and that this is the beginning of the end. Yep. Because in my opinion, and this is, remember, I was a lifelong Democrat, worked for Panetta, worked for Biden, worked for different congressional races. I just think they need, from the top, they need the leadership changed at the DNC. And until that corruption is rooted out, the dark money's taken out, they stop buying troll farms to go after individuals on social media and to put up false ideas and propaganda, they've become the party of warmongers. I mean, they're literally lifting up Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are. So, so it's not even the lesser of two evils. It's just voting evil.
It's just evil.
They lift up anyone but the left.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Anyone but the left. I was just talking to Rokan about that recently. And, I told everyone earlier today, I said, I'm having a drink tonight. Because my head, it just made my brain hurt. Because I told him, I was like, yeah, people are leaving the Democratic Party and we're not feeling this. And I don't think he was expecting to hear that.
Really?
I had to let him know. I was just like, look, Democratic Party isn't doing anything for working class people, for poor people in this country. And the Republicans aren't helping people either. So yeah, we're going to be voting third party if we vote. And he tried to blame Jill Stein for the reason that Hillary Clinton lost. And so that was kind of when I was like, I hope I don't look frustrated, because I'd really been burning up on the inside. But that was when I was like, no, here's why Democrats are losing. Here's why Hillary Clinton lost. It was her fault. And and I just went off. And then, I'm
surprised they didn't update his playbook in 2 years. Man, Jill Stein doesn't really work anymore. That doesn't fly.
It's amazing. They're either blaming Jill Stein or they're blaming Susan Sarandon. They have their own rotating villain, I guess.
For sure.
Or they're just blaming people that are wanting health care and affordable housing and food. It's our fault.
Yeah.
We're not voting hard enough, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think he's used to hearing from this side of the left. I don't think he's used to hearing that, And so it's just
they've got earmuffs for that. They're just like, la, 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 Mary had.
It's like, no. And I did talk to him about Medicare for All, the marches happening this weekend and the marches that happened last year. And I heard a lot of excuses just to we didn't know about it. I'm like, we contacted all of you guys.
Didn't AOC said we're not doing that? Or she's just
her whole office said, all of her staff. Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about that tonight, because I'm just like, oh, well, look at that. The cat's out the bag. Literally, there's a cat right there.
There is a cat.
Said cat.
Hey, he's just come and join us. He is ungovernable. Yeah, he does not like to be governed.
Hello.
But the bag. Yeah, you call out AOC, because that's amazing that she said that. People are desperate, and we're still, dealing with, the fallout of the pandemic and all of the stuff that went with that. And she's okay. Yeah. At this point, they're not even hiding it. They're not even hiding that they can simply just do what they want.
Yep.
And I think it was Friday, how much went 160 million more to Ukrainian weapons. So it just flew by.
Yep.
And they're voting for it. The squad is voting. They voted NATO. They voted for Finland and Sweden. I mean, and then tried to distract with that whole debacle with the hands behind the back, and then
Yep. It's all optics. And I
rest
was telling people, like, we have to keep in mind that yes, the gas prices are high. They've come down some, but yes, those things are high, but they're not affected. They don't have to pay for gas.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
they have
exactly.
great health care.
Exactly.
Did Rose say anything hopeful? Anything you could you get it in any way or no?
The only thing he said that I actually believed was when he said, we're never going to get Medicare for all unless you have a president that actually wants Medicare for all, and that person actually wins. That's what he said. So when he said that to me, it was like, that's saying the quiet part out loud, because what that goes to show you is that even if you increase the number of progressives in the House, if the president doesn't want it, it doesn't matter because they can just veto it.
Yep. As he said he would do.
And Joe Biden has a huge DuPont sign and
Exactly.
and Pfizer behind his head. You know, like if I've seen the memes, but if it would be interesting if they stood on a panel and you could see the corporations behind them.
Yep.
And then you know why they're voting the way they're voting. I think the American citizens really don't realize how much that is,
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's amazing that you had him on your show, that he came on and that he at least talked with you about it. So that's great.
I was
And
surprised.
you had the patience of a saint. Seriously, you did so great.
I was just like, I don't know, but I wanted him to hear how people are really feeling, and not just people that are in his district or people that interview him, mainstream media like CNN and MSNBC. Like, they don't speak for the rest of us.
Exactly.
So I just thought that was important for him to know.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
But thank you guys so much for coming on. But before you head out, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Reade Alexandra, READE Alexandra. You can find me on my shows on INN, but also on my own channel, Tara Reade, on YouTube. And you can look for me on Linktree. Linktree has all my links and all that good stuff in my book. And you can find me there. And I'm hoping that Jesse will do a song. I don't know if there's time.
If there's time, I'd be happy to do one.
When I heard Jesse was coming on the show, I was like, oh, we're going to hear something. So I don't know.
That's up to Sabby. If you have time, I can do a song. I'd love to, yeah.
Jesse, are you going live tonight?
I am at 10.
You're going live at 10?
Yeah.
You can either do, you got that squad song?
I could do the squad song if you want, of course.
Okay. Could you do that one?
Of course.
Okay. Sorry, I really like that one.
No.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, it's a crowd favorite.
All right.
Okay.
And it's appropriate because you just had that interview.
Yeah, right. This was really the first time that I went after just specifically, the people that we put our faith in and keep getting let down by constantly. And yeah, this was one that I did at the Medicare for All March in Columbus. And that was already my first time doing these songs in front of an actual crowd. I've been a musician my whole life. I've never done such, inflammatory political stuff for a crowd before. And there was one line in this that I was really proud of, and it got mid-song applause. And that was a highlight of that whole day for me. So this is off of the album Inauguration Gift. This is called #SquadGoals. Fate demanded I be singer of a new ballad about the candidate you wanted, like a finger in your fruit salad, but were made to choke down. And never mind he didn't have supporters on the ground. Never mind a website that gave volunteers the runaround, and a platform of policy that followed Biden's lead and didn't make a fucking sound. And then he takes the crown. Now that's ascension into power by immaculate election, cause no one really wanted it and no one should have trusted it. But don't you try to question it, cause Joe is not a fan of questions. Joe is a fan of pointing fingers right in people's faces.
Or if they're not in public spaces, Joe will try to point a finger everywhere I wouldn't mention. Cause Joe's soul is molded and beholden more to power than the list of fucking speakers at the DNC convention, who gave us all a show of keeping AOC at bay, just so everyone could say they tried to censor her dissension. But if you still believe that those progressives we've elected give a shit if we're protected, there's a bridge I'd like to sell you in a parallel dimension. You know they're just tech savvier with media relation, propagandist Instagram and public obfuscation. They're better suited to assure you that they're here to have a conversation. Better suited to assure you they aren't actively supporting your eviction and your slide into starvation. They're better suited to assure you they can tweet about your needs and offer hope and motivation while you drift into the weeds. But they partnered with the moccasins and gators and the reeds, and they'll damn sure get a portion of our meat. So, love me or leave me or mislead me to decree. Honey, you don't want to hear it, so I'll try to say it sweet. The squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet. The GOP will kill you on your feet. Dems and fake progressives do it in your sleep. No, anyone can recognize a nation's needs and put it in a tweet. But coming from a leader in a seat of power really shows they know they're obsolete. Nah, GOP will kill you on your feet. Dems and fake progressives do it in your sleep. The squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet.
And that's hashtag squad goals. The acoustic version.
Woo-hoo! I love it. I love it. I love it. Tara,
thank you.
I think there's one question for you. Or I thought it was on Rockfin. Let's see. I don't see. Do you see a question? Oh, here it is. Okay, this is Roger Meadows. Thanks for the tip, Roger. Sabby, I never got into that fight with Kit only because the closest Chi-Town pizza I had was Uno, seeing that I had never been to Chicago or Illinois, period. I'm glad you checked it out for me, but Tara, being from the land of cheese, who and doesn't Chicago sell pies, right? Not slices like New York, do they? Wouldn't it be like comparing apples and oranges?
No, they sell slices, and yes, I did live in Wisconsin, and yes, you know, we get the cheese curds, and we take the cheese curds and we deep fry them. Well, you got to have the right cow to have the right cheese curds, and then once you do that, you deep fry it and put it on pizza, and then you watch the Bears. The Bears.
When we're in Chicago at the conference, can you do like the first sentence of your speech in that accent just to see if you can sell the whole room on it?
I'm not a Russian pigeon. I was a girl on a farm from Wisconsin, and we had cheese curds. We had cows, and I don't know. They weren't Russian cows. They were American cows. But maybe.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
The marks, and that's what started it. And now we have good pizza with cheese curds pizza. All right,
there was this cartoon that used to come on called Bobby's World.
Oh yeah.
And Bobby's mom had like a Midwestern accent, and she used to always say, "Oh, Bobby, don't you know?
Oh, Bobby, don't you know? Oh, Bobby, don't you know?"
Yeah, wasn't that Howie Mandel?
Yeah,
it was Howie Mandel's brainchild. Yeah, I used to love that show when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, so Roger said,
coming for you. We're coming for you, Kit. Who has better cheese, New York or Chicago? Chicago, because they got the Wisconsin influx. Okay, influx of cheese coming in. 30 below zero. Okay, you got to make good cheese in 30 below zero. I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been fun.
Thanks for putting up with my accent. Okay. Love you, music. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tara.
Bye.
Okay. All right, guys. let's go ahead and get started with the thumbnail. I'll get to the super chats and then we'll get into tonight's stories. Let me go ahead and grab my thumbnail here. Here we go. All right, what are we talking about tonight? Tonight, we're discussing Charlamagne the God names names. Yikes. He's calling all of them out. Liz Cheney, Joe Manchin, and Kamala Harris. Why, oh, why? We're also going to discuss AOC. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. We're going to discuss AOC Medicare for All. Whoops. We're going to get into that story. Of course, Tara Reade and Jett were just here. And I'm also going to discuss Panama rises up. What is happening in Panama and why should we all be paying attention to what's going on over there right now? Quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. Goes a long way. If you want to become a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and the ultimate. And I want to give a special shout out to a new Sabby patron. Let's give it up for Peggy Robertson. Woohoo! Thank you guys so much. You can also see their name scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So let's go ahead and get started with this first story here. Oh, actually, I want to do super chats first. Whoopsie, sorry. Thank you for the super sticker, Eric Patton. Thanks for the super chat, John. I doubt it was mutual. She was nearly in full contract for her own Rising Later show. Interesting. Well, hopefully we'll hear from Kim soon. Thank you for the super chat, Farron. I mention you all the time on my show, Sabby Sabs. Love your deep dives. Keep up the good fight and keep educating folks out there. Same to you, Jesse and Tara. Love you guys. Fight, fight, fight. Thank you so much, Farron. I really appreciate that. And then, I did that one already. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Whoops, I skipped one. Tabby, you should try to interview these folks. Ray McGovern, Scott Ritter, Jeffrey David Sachs. I'm sure they all fall under anti-imperialist banner at least. Thank you so much for that recommendation. Thank you for this super chat as well. I like to see what I call a solemn stroll protest, similar to a flash mob in rich neighborhoods of the rich and public official government residences. Thank you for this super chat as well. No chanting or signs, just agreed upon protest messages on shirts, pants, dress. Wouldn't it be hard for police to arrest people for just taking a stroll? And thank you for the super chat as well. Stress equals dresses. Sorry. Okay. That makes more sense. I see we have Oz here. Sabby the Row Slayer. Thanks so much, Oz. Brandy says, hello, Sabby. Good job pushing back on Roe. Thank you so much. And there was one more here as well. Jones said, Rokana said that because he's angling to become president, he's an Indian Obama, total corporatist. Wow. Yikes, Jones. Whoo. All right, let's go ahead and get into our story tonight. Now, this one is in reference to AOC. Now, this was going around on Twitter, and this tweet really took off. So our friend Daniel here, he tweeted, a couple of the most highly respected health policy academics recently set up a meeting with AOC's office to discuss a national healthcare style healthcare reform. So NHS. They were told bluntly by AOC staff, we're not doing healthcare right now. Yeah. There's more to this tweet, but this tweet received over 8,000 likes. But again, that was coming from AOC staff. I don't know who the individual was. I don't know if it was multiple staff members. Don't know. Didn't see names. But this thread started a whole ordeal to the point where even AOC chimed in. He went on to say, so while she's doing performative resistance art for the camera, she's not doing healthcare right now. We are in the middle of 2 pandemics and people are still dying because they lack healthcare. This is not fighting. I agree with you, Daniel. That's not fighting. If you want to know why they think we need a national healthcare service, read this article. The profiteering and consolidation has gotten bad on the provider side. Healthcare resources should ultimately be under community ownership. And there's an article here where it says our community needs Harmon University Hospital. Medicare for all is not enough. And I do want to chime in here for just a second. The nation puts out good work. One thing I want to add is that me and JB have been talking about this in reference to, is Medicare for all enough? What we have come to realize is that even Medicare for all is still a compromise. If we could have our top choice, we would like to have something similar to what they have in the UK. So like a nationalized healthcare system. That actually goes further than Medicare for all. So the fact that AOC staff, when they were supposed to have this meeting with these individuals, that they said, we're not doing healthcare right now, it really isn't a good look for AOC. It's not a good look for the Democratic Party, and it's not a good look for progressives in general. But they let the cat out the bag, and that's what happened. Now, this goes on. Daniel went on to say, imagine if we just expropriated all the healthcare assets and used them to keep our community healthy instead of letting oligarchs play monopoly with them. And he has 2 screenshots here. One says Amazon said it had reached a $3.9 billion deal to acquire One Medical, a network of primary care clinics. The move is a big step in its plans to become a major player in healthcare. The other screenshot says One Medical to acquire Iora Health in $2.1 billion all stock deal. Now, go back a bit. So that was the end of his part of the discussion here in the tweet. So obviously the nationalized system actually is the cream of the crop. I would say, I don't know, if we're comparing, like, I'm trying to think of something that's more like a chain that everybody knows. If we're comparing like which is better here, you know, I would say Medicare for all is like, I don't know, the old school Hydrox cookies, and NHS would be Oreos. So it goes a little bit further. Now, like I said, this tweet really stirred up some things here, because even AOC responded to this tweet, which she usually does not do unless it's someone who is high profile. But because that tweet got so much attention, I feel like she had no choice here but to respond. And this is what she said. I'm really sorry to hear that this happened. It's not representative of me or my values. If you can connect with details, I'd appreciate it. I'll follow, so DMs will be open. So I will reach out to Daniel to find out if she actually did follow him, but she's letting him know here that she's going to follow him on Twitter. So her DMs will open up and he'll be able to send her the details via DM. Now, here's the thing. Whoever those staff members were that gave that message, they didn't just come up with this off the top of their head. They were told that. I really believe at some point, either her or other people on her team told the staff, if anybody comes to talk about Medicare for all, we're not doing healthcare right now. That is not our primary focus. That's not something that we're focusing on. Now, why am I more likely to believe the staff than what AOC is saying. Because where have we heard that same phrase before? We're not doing that right now. We've heard it from Nancy Pelosi and we've heard it from Barack Obama. Not in reference to Medicare for all, but in reference to other matters. In reference to abortion, Nancy Pelosi said, we're not focusing on that right now. Barack Obama, it's not going to be a priority. We're not doing that right now. So this has become a Democratic Party talking point. That's why I do believe that they were told that. I don't think they would make that up. So AOC's response here, though, this was not enough. And Jessica Ramos had something to say. So let's go in here. So here's the response from AOC where she said, I'm really sorry that I just showed you. Jessica Ramos responded, with the blows. And if anyone in the chat lives in AOC's district, please let me know. Jessica said, maybe if you spent more time in your office and with your team, you'd know what goes on. Just saying it would be nice if you breathed our air. So as an employer, what happens with the staffer? Who said this? Same question I have. Who said it? What happens? Now, Jessica Ramos is running for office. She's a working families Democrat. I would actually recommend her to run as an independent. But she's representing District 13 in New York State Senate. But she is not fond of AOC. So Jessica came out with a big punch there. And then there's also an article that someone put here. Lefty New York lawmaker Jessica Ramos blasts AOC as absent and out of touch. So the New York Post picked up this tweet. So it's made the rounds. She went on to say here, I believe what I see and hear on my streets and in my office building. From what I understand as well, Jessica Ramos, they apparently are on the same floor. Couldn't find the other part of that tweet, but she had mentioned in another reply that I believe they're both on the 7th floor, something like that. So that's why she knew she wasn't there. So, this is a common complaint that has come from, some of the people in the districts where these politicians are supposed to represent, is that we never see them. They win, they go off to DC. They're supposed to be coming home, technically, I guess, on the weekends. But the biggest complaint you hear from people is that we never see them. Isn't that the same thing that people were saying about Joe Crowley, who AOC primary challenged? Didn't she say she wouldn't be like that? Didn't she say she wouldn't do that? And now she's doing the same thing. So I think what AOC is doing is she's trying to keep up appearances here. This response that she gave here got 20,000 likes. But I think AOC knows what she's doing. She's playing the game. And, shout out to Jessica for being willing to call it out, being willing to call that out, because not everybody will. And it was really funny. Someone here tried to come back and say, do you believe everything you read on Twitter or only those that align with what you believe? And that's when she came back and she said, I believe what I see and hear on my streets and in my office building. Bam. So this is not the first person that I've heard this from, this, notion that AOC has not been present. It's not the first person I've heard that from. I've talked to other people that live in AOC's district and they've been saying the same thing. So it's a problem. And like I said, I am more likely to believe what those staffers said instead of what AOC is saying. They got that message from somewhere. So that's something to think about. I'm going to go to some of the comments here in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. I wonder what would be the psychological and political response if all of us start demanding NHS style rather than Medicare for all. In demanding, ask for something just above what you would settle for, folks. Wink. And that is a good idea, AJF. I really like that because you're right. If you really want, let's say with that infrastructure bill, if you really want 10 trillion for the infrastructure, then you would ask for more because they're always going to offer you less. Isn't that what Bernie Sanders found out with that infrastructure bill? And they kept decreasing and decreasing and saying, we're going to drop that down to 6. We're going to drop it down to 3. So you always over ask. So that's actually really smart. That's a good idea. That's a little technique, I think, with negotiation as well. Always ask for more. You can use that for salaries too, by the way. Salary advice when you're trying to negotiate. If you want them to pay you $70,000 a year, don't ask for $70,000 a year. Ask for more than that. I'll take that comment on Rockfin, Eric. Doobie-doobie-doo, doobie-doobie-doo. All right. Thanks for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. This is, Sabs, I was waiting to see when in Dobbs' case SCOTUS threw abortion back to the states where it would move the needle in terms of the base getting behind Dems or not. Now that we see this can show the party once and for all that universal policies trump all issues specific to certain groups. People need their basic everyday needs secured first. Medicare for all, income above rent, infrastructure, power in the workplace. And thank you for this tip as well. This is what I try to tell GP members. If you are left of Dems, are you fighting for Medicare for all and not nationalized health care, including pharmaceuticals? Matter of fact, do it with all essential services, broadband power, the airlines, trains, and buses. $15 minimum wage, not tie it to local rental cost. Go beyond unions by being pro-worker co-op. Include prisons and weapons manufacturing. Those are good points, Roger. Give me a sec. Those are good points. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, we're going to go into our next story. Now, I don't know if everyone has been paying attention to what's been happening in Panama. Now, I haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. I've been talking about a lot of things, and there's been a lot of uprisings going on around the world. But now it's time to talk about Panama because people in Panama have had enough. A couple days ago, I showed you what was going on in Sri Lanka, how the people said, screw this, went into the prime minister's home and said, get out, and then they swam in his pool. It looks as though people in Panama have also had enough with this corrupt economy, and they have also decided to rise up. Listen to this. What is behind the largest protest in Panama in years? It says in years, you guys. As the country continues to battle ongoing protests and a financial crisis, we take a look at the protesters' demands and the government's response. So look at this picture, you guys. You see this? Do you see how all of them are rising up? If anyone in the chat is from Panama, let me know. Let me know. So let's go ahead and get into this. Thousands of Panamanian protesters have taken to the streets in recent weeks to demand the government put a stop to rising inflation and corruption. So you see, guys, I don't know what happened there. Same issue. Okay, I don't know why this thing is moving. I won't highlight anything then. Same issue that they were dealing with Sri Lanka, inflation and corruption. President Laurentino Cortizo recently announced measures to cut fuel costs and put a cap on the price of basic food items. But protesters said they were not enough and promised to continue demonstrating. So you hear this? He said he was going to cut fuel costs and he was going to put a cap on the price of basic food items. But basically, he did the bare minimum. He did just enough to get by. And so the people in Panama was like, oh no, this is not a time where you can continue to give us crumbs. You have to do more. So people continued to demonstrate. Now let's go on here. Here is what you should know about the protest. Some of the longest to have taken place in Panama in decades. That's how crazy this is, you guys. This Algeria site keeps moving. But why is Panama having protests, and what are the protesters' demands? The latest protests come as Panama battles inflation. The inflation rate is 4.2% in May. Unemployment numbers are about 10%. That's insane. And an increase in fuel costs of almost 50% since January. Jesus. That's one piece of it, just one part. Teachers were the first group to demonstrate at the start of July, but they have since been joined by other groups, including construction workers, students, and members of indigenous groups. So you guys see how this works? One group of workers started it, and then other groups of workers joined them. That's how you do it. Pretty sure class divide here. So people who are part of the lower classes here that were struggling financially, they decide to get, this is what we need to do here. This is what I've been talking about. The same way you have Starbucks workers on strike, you have now, Apple workers starting to go on strike, Chipotle, all these different industries here where the workers are going on strike and they're trying to unionize. Imagine if all of them came together and said, now let's all hit the streets. Imagine what that would do in this country. That's what I've been talking about. Let's go back in here. It goes on to say, initially, the protesters called for the freezing and reduction of fuel prices, a price cap on food, and an increase in the budget for education. Man, how dare they ask for things that are basic necessities here? How dare they? The nerve of them. But the demands have since widened to include a national negotiation to address political corruption and discuss larger political reforms. And this is why I said, if you start with the workers first, then you can get to the other issues. You start with the workers, you start along class lines, you come together, and then you can get to the larger political issues. That's what we've been advocating for. That's what we want you to do. That's what we think could actually work in this country. But if people are only going to protest and unite over the fact that so-and-so's on the left or so-and-so's on the right, then we're always going to lose. Because then we're not fighting back against the 1%. And let's be real, there aren't enough of us on the left to fight back against the 1% on our own. We need other people to join with us to fight against the oligarchs. We can't do it on our own. We do not have enough people. So this is something that I want people to understand. Panama realized that. Let's go back in. So it goes on to say the current situation in Panama is unbelievable. This is coming from Dominguez, who studies medicine. There are no medical supplies. There are salary cuts and there is no work. There is no money to pay the doctors. As a student, the future worries me a lot. Now, in the United States, there's work, but for who and where are the jobs, right? I would argue that people that live in the rural parts of America don't have that many job opportunities. I would argue, in reference to where they say here there is no money to pay the doctors, we have people here in the United States that have that same problem. They don't have enough money to pay the doctors. I would argue here where it says that there are no medical supplies and there are salary cuts. Well, we have medical supplies here, but depending on where you live, that can be far and few. If you go out to some of these rural towns where they don't have hospitals and they have to drive far out, sometimes an hour away just to get medical supplies, we are heading in this direction if things do not change in this country. This is where we're headed. Have they made the announcement yet that we're going into a recession? I'm sorry. Am I just supposed to say the R word? Because I know, politicians don't like saying that word. But that's where we're heading into. And we predicted this. And Professor Wolf predicted this last year. He said this was going to happen and it was going to happen this year. So if you think about it, we are not that far off from what is happening to people in Panama right now. Not being able to pay the doctors, not having medical supplies. Again, depending on where you live, that is the case. And having salary cuts. And we're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. But you don't have to hear it from me. I want you to watch a clip here. I'll just play a little bit of it here so you can see what has really been happening.
For 2 weeks, protests have taken to the streets of Panama, demanding the government take action to combat the high cost of living.
Hey, Eric, can we use volume booster? Whee! Thanks. Like when I say they're out in the streets, they're out in the streets.
For 2 weeks, protests have taken to the streets of Panama, demanding the government take action to combat the high cost of living. Prices of gasoline, medicine, and basic food items have doubled since the start of the year.
People are protesting everywhere, and we are ready to start an indefinite strike until they sit down with us to discuss and find solutions to this unsustainable situation.
Teachers were the first to demonstrate at the start of July, but they have since been joined by construction workers, students, and members of indigenous groups.
See, they started with the workers first, and then they also got people of indigenous groups and the students, but they started with the workers first.
In the central province of Veraguas, protesters blocked the Pan American Highway, affecting access of goods to the Panama Canal from other Central American countries. President Laurentino Cortizo blamed COVID and the war in Ukraine for the cost hikes. He promised to reduce the price of gasoline by 24% and freeze the cost of 10 basic food items to try and dissuade protesters.
Do you see how these sanctions are affecting everyone? It's not just Russia and Ukraine. It's affecting other countries as well. This is what we said would happen.
One of the
problems now hitting Panamanians and the world is rising fuel prices and the consequences. For that reason, I set up talks to address high fuel costs directly impacting the cost of staple foods, with the objective of finding concrete and feasible solutions.
But on Tuesday, protesters called the offer insufficient, demanding larger reductions and vowed to keep up their pressure on the streets. Analysts say the problem lies in an unequal economic recovery following the pandemic.
An unequal economic recovery following the pandemic. And this can happen anywhere. And I can guarantee you, the leadership who was just speaking a moment ago, I can guarantee you he has food. I can guarantee you he has money to buy food, to buy gas. He's probably living in a nice house, just like the prime minister of Sri Lanka. That's why they kicked him out of his house. But the rest of the people are suffering.
números macro que está presentando.
The macro numbers are based on a few items: logistics, the national airline, mining, and the Panama Canal. But the growth did not trickle down to the population while prices went up. So working class Panamanians are wondering why, if the country is growing at 6.5%, they are unable to pay for medicine and gasoline.
Okay, here we go with the trickle down economics. I want you to hear what he says right here one more time. Listen to this part.
Pandemic.
Los números macro que está presentando.
The macro numbers are based on a few items: logistics, the national airline, mining, and the Panama Canal. But the growth did not trickle down to the population while prices.
The growth did not trickle down to the population. Where have we heard that before? Right here in the United States. The Reagan years.
Prices went up. So working class Panamanians are wondering why, if the country is growing at 6.5%, they are unable to pay for medicine and gasoline.
If the country is growing economically at 6.5%, how come the workers are not able to pay for gasoline? How come the workers are not able to buy food? This is the problem when all the wealth is concentrated at the top. This whole idea, whoever even came up with this stupid trickle down economics, it was a horrible idea. Horrible. The workers are suffering and struggling, and the people at the top are comfortable and fine. Are they trying to have an election and vote people in? No, they hit the streets. This is why when people tell me, well, we can get these things done, we just need to pass this bill, we just need to pass this piece of legislation. Faster way is hitting the streets. I'm sorry, but that's the faster way of doing it.
The government is hoping for negotiations with union leaders, but for now, more demonstrations are planned, and a national strike is set to go ahead on Wednesday. Alessandra Ampietti, Al Jazeera.
Okay, so you just heard that. A national strike is going to happen Wednesday. National strike. See how they can just come together like that and say, listen, we've had enough. We're suffering here. Let's get everybody together, all the workers together, and let's go on a national strike and just shut everything down. This is what we've been talking about here. This is what we've talked about at RBN, having a general strike. That's basically what they're planning to do in their country, shutting everything down. And I feel that's the way to go. They can't make you go to work. And they realize that, look, they don't want to pay us what we need to eat, to live, to survive. Let's just stop going to work, all of us. And that's what they did. So they push. You have to push back. Now let's come out of the video. And let's go back in here because there was something else I wanted to point to. The impact. This is important. What has been the impact? In the central province of Veraguas, protesters blocked the Pan-American Highway, affecting the access of goods to the Panama Canal from other Central American countries. See why blocking off trade routes are effective? They said shut down the highway so the goods will not get through. They go on to say the highway is the route through which 80% of Panama's fruits and vegetables are transported. Excuse me. Did I go to the right one? Yeah. Economists warn the demonstrations have cost the country millions of dollars in losses and are leading to shortages of fuel and food. On Monday, most of the stalls at Panama's main produce market closed early because of a lack of fruits and vegetables. You see, this is essentially a general strike. Now they're saying economically it's caused problems for the country. It's causing losses for the country. But for who? Because obviously the workers weren't making enough to buy food anyway. Panama is really close to the United States, you guys. It's not like it's on the other side of the globe. They cut off the trade routes. Everything is stuck. Few things arrive. Roberto, a seller, told Al Jazeera, a little tomato, onions, peppers, or carrots and potatoes. And usually we can only sell 30% or so of what arrives. The rest is already ruined for being blocked for days. And then you can see people there. Passengers walk as union workers block the entrance to the international airport. Do you see, like in other countries, and I'll continue to talk about global news because I feel like I want people to see what is happening in other countries, how they really, when they shut things down, they shut it down. When they protest, they really go all out. Now, what has the government done? Responding to the protests, Cortizo, that's the president, announced a reduction in the price of fuel and plans to cap the price of 10 basic products. He blamed the pandemic and the war for the cost increases. One of the problems now hitting Panamanians and the world is rising fuel prices and the consequences. For that reason, I set up talks to address high fuel costs directly impacting the cost of staple foods, with the objective of finding concrete and feasible solutions. That's coming from the president. Cortizo's administration agreed on Sunday to further reduce the price of gas from $3.95 to $3.25 per gallon, a stark contrast to June's $5.20 per gallon. But the move was not enough to appease the demonstrators, who erected new roadblocks and pledged to continue protesting. And honestly, I don't blame them. Now that you have his attention, his full undivided attention, drain him for all he's worth. Don't just take the crumbs. Obviously, what they're doing is getting his attention. He's responding. He's changing things. Keep going at it so he can give you even more. Don't go home now. Don't go home too early. That's what happened with the George Floyd protests. And what did we get? What did we get? Oh, I know what the response was. They decided to give the police more money. Don't tap out now. They go on to say, analysts say part of the problem lies in an unequal economic recovery for Panama's various social classes following the pandemic. Here we go with that word class again. My. Of course, you are going to have unequal economic recovery after a pandemic because you already have different classes of people. So if you get hit with the pandemic, you already have people that are divided by class, wealthy, elite, middle class, working class, poor. Of course, if you get a catastrophe or if you have a pandemic, something like that, that is everyone is affected, of course, those who are wealthy are going to recover economically faster. Those who are poor will continue to struggle the most. Those who are working class will still struggle and middle class will still struggle. But for people who are wealthy, they are going to recover the fastest. That's what happens in a capitalist society. This is what happens when everyone is not on equal level. That's the problem with capitalism. All it takes is one hit. All it takes is one catastrophe. Look at what happened after Hurricane Katrina. You know who was able to rebuild really quickly? Wealthy people in New Orleans. Poor people were relocated across the country. I know. Some of them moved to South Carolina. I was in college at the time when they came over. Some of them moved to South Carolina. Could you imagine living somewhere your entire life and then you have a catastrophe happen, a climate catastrophe happen, and then the US government tells you, okay, we're picking up this family and we're sending them to South Carolina. We're picking up your neighbor and we're sending them to Baltimore, Maryland. That's what they did. Now you got to start all over somewhere else. People think capitalism is great until something really bad happens that everyone is affected. They go on to say the macro numbers are based on a few items: logistics, the national airline, mining, and the Panama Canal. So those are all important. And this is where they go into talking about how the growth did not trickle down. And that's the part we heard that on the video.
All right, that I think Sabby froze and dropped out. All right. I wish I knew what she was going to say exactly next, but I know she was covering this Panama story. Let's clear that out. Here we go. Yeah, Sabby had an internet problem, but she'll manage to get it back here in a second. Let's take it. Jay, take it from here. Was it the feds? Who knows? Let's see what we had for some chats in here. We can work on some of those from Black Queer Solistia, right on Panama. We had Gamer here chiming in saying that we need French level style protesting. I would agree with that one. Had Rodrigo here mentioning that these GDP numbers should come out on Thursday, and we'll see if that officially declares the recession. We shall see. DNB saying we should bring back the BLM protests of 2020 and shut it down. Yeah, there's that whole idea of bringing them back, and then also not getting co-opted. Someone else in the chat noted, we got BLM painted on the streets of DC now. Yeah, hopefully Sabby will make her connection back here shortly. Carrie noted, how are the workers eating though, and I'm sure that how Sabby would respond to that would be to talk about mutual aid. And one of the keys in these kind of protests, big or small, is have mutual aid and strike funds and things like that in place to feed the workers and the strikers. Oh, and I think she's there. She's coming back. How we doing?
Sorry, guys. My Wi-Fi, man. I have a new router coming. Okay, I have one more story left. What a mess. Oh, it's doing it again. Hold on. Let me switch to mobile hotspot. I'm going to switch to mobile hotspot.
Sometimes down. All right. Let me see while I'm at it. If I can get my better microphone going here, because I know it comes in kind of low when I'm doing it this way. Go audio. Oh, are you in?
Okay, I'm on
All right.
mobile hotspot.
You look okay at the moment. Well, it comes and goes.
No, it's not. It's not suspect, baby. It's my router. We've been having like spotty Wi-Fi the past couple of days. Yeah, because it says connection is unstable. I am using a hardwire connection. That's what I'm saying. It's the router. And if I come out of it now, let's see what happens. Give me just a second. Okay, I should be able to do that. Yeah, the connection is not
Looks like you're in the okay now at the moment.
Okay. Okay, it's better now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this last story here. Sabby got the I got the one that came with the cable. Like I don't know. It's from the cable company. So it's like the router and the modem is built in together. I don't think it was a good idea. I got to get the high speed one. So I'll go ahead and do Sabby got that Cox Basic. I don't know, man. Yeah. All right, let's get into the Charlamagne video because that's the last story. So Charlamagne the God actually was just on The View recently. And Case Study QB, I got to give him a shout out for this. Because Charlamagne basically started naming names in reference to the Democratic Party and their behavior that's happened this year. So let's go ahead and see what Charlamagne had to say about that. Shout out to Case Study QB for this clip.
Proud. We were talking before you came out. We were talking about politics and we were talking about Liz Cheney. And there's some people like me who see her as a profile in courage, as a historical figure, as somebody who's
Liz Cheney.
Yes. How do you see her?
None of those things. I mean, I don't. I mean, that's a broad question. How do I see her? Like,
yeah, because some people see her as a hero in today's politics.
No.
Some people see her as a hero.
Well, she's standing up to people who say that the bar election
pretty low.
Yeah, I mean,
was stolen.
Yeah, but she was complicit for 4 years. I mean, when you ride with Donald Trump on damn near everything for 4 years, I don't think you can be considered a hero. Not to mention.
That's right. That's right. So here Charlamagne the God is chiming in and he's saying that, you know, I told you guys this, a lot of these Democrats, Robert Reich's been a big one that's been doing this recently. He wrote a whole article about why he believes that Liz Cheney should run for president for 2024. Yes, Robert Reich. I told you guys he's weird. Anywho, a lot of these Democrats have been supporting Liz Cheney and said, yes, like she should run 2024. She's what the Republican Party used to be and what it should go back to, ignoring the fact that Liz Cheney was against the LGBTQ. Now she's changed her mind on that, but whatevs. It didn't seem to change her mind on that issue, knowing that her sister was LGBTQ at the time. So there's that. But she's changed her mind on that. Like Charlamagne said, she was riding with Trump for all that time. So I don't think we need to give her applause, a round of applause, a pat on the back. We need to give her cookies because now all of a sudden she did the right thing on one issue. And that's what the Democratic Party has been doing. So I'm glad that he called out her, but he's going to go on to call out others as well.
After January 6th, you voted against the John Lewis voting rights bill. So you can't tell me that you're standing up for democracy when you won't even vote to preserve the cornerstone of democracy, which is voting.
Yeah.
Nah.
Okay, then.
She's not a hero.
So, okay, as we have just seen, you pull no punches with your opinions, which we appreciate. We're just like you here. When I heard that you asked Vice President Harris, who's the real president here, Biden or Manchin? Did you ask her that question? What did she say?
Nothing. She didn't really give an answer, but I mean, as you can see, it still seems like President Manchin is currently running this country. And I think that was, in hindsight, when you look, people thought I was being harsh by asking that question, but now it's like, well, damn, who is running this country? Is it President Biden or
It has a
President
lot of
Manchin?
power for one person. That's
Absolutely.
true. I know, but
Absolutely.
that's the system. The system is off.
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Are you still frustrated with the way the Democrats are countering the Republicans?
Yes, I feel like Democrats have tried every political strategy except for courage. And I'm on record as saying the four
What do you
things.
mean by that?
Well, I think there's four things that need to be done to preserve democracy. One is get rid of the filibuster so you can properly legislate.
Manchin won't have it.
That's right.
And Kirsten Sinema, too.
That's right.
So it's not his fault.
That's right. One is expand the Supreme Court. You got to protect voting rights, and you got to prosecute everybody involved with the insurrection on January 6th. It takes courage to vote to get rid of the filibuster, but it also takes courage to call out people like Joe Manchin, to call out people like Kristen Sinema, and let us, the general public, know those are the people blocking progress in this party.
You feel they're not doing that enough?
Absolutely not. Bernie Sanders was one of the first, high-profile people in that party to do it last week. AOC has been doing it. People like Nina Turner have been doing it, but it's just like, that's what I was actually trying to get the vice president to do, to point us in the right direction.
In West Virginia, could there be a Democrat that's not?
There we go. All right, our Sabby dropped again. Now she's coming back. But I figured I shouldn't let the view run too long.
Oh
Get
yeah,
into the copyright issues too.
Okay, thanks. I don't know, what part did it get to? It's very weird. On my end, it's like at a very different place.
And let us, the general public, know those are the people blocking progress in this party.
You feel they're not doing that enough?
Absolutely not. Bernie Sanders was one of the first, high-profile people in that party to do it last week. AOC has been doing it. People like Nina Turner have been doing it, but it's just like.
So I'm here, but I don't know. I'm trying to connect the tight VNC. I'm going to have to remove that. Okay. I have to go back into tight VNC. Sorry, guys. Okay, now I'm back in here. Okay. Let me go back to where I was on this segment. Okay.
Harsh by asking that question, but now it's like, well, damn, who is running this country? Is it President Biden or
It has a
President
lot of
Manchin?
power for one person. That's
Absolutely.
And this is the same thing that I had mentioned to Rokana, is the fact that, yes, that is a lot of power for one person. Who is running the country? Is it Joe Manchin or is it Joe Biden? It seems like Joe Manchin is the one that's making all the decisions, not Joe Biden. So I'm glad that he brought that up as well. And yeah, I remember that episode when he interviewed Kamala Harris and he asked her that question, and Kamala did not like that. And she said, now, don't you go talking like a Republican now. Don't you go sounding like a Republican. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, why? Because he asked you a legitimate question that a lot of us have been wondering in this country. Who is running the country? She didn't answer that question, by the way. She didn't answer it. Thank you for the super chat, Paul. I wonder what happened to the families from New Orleans that came to South Dakota. We heard a lot about it at first, but not so much lately. That's a good question, Paul. I don't know. I wonder if maybe they went back home after they were finished rebuilding in New Orleans. Maybe they went back home. I'm not sure. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Must say, citizenry of other nations put American people to shame when it comes to classes struggle. What we do, culture warism, pathetic. Bam. And thank you for the super sticker, Suzanne Murphy. Thank you so much for that. Buster Peak says Charlamagne does seem to be evolving, but still has a way to go. I agree. Still has a ways. Golden Silence, Sabby, tell your husband, get off the phone. That is why you're getting disconnected. Oh, man. I know, those were the days. But let's go back in because he has more to say here.
I know, but that's the system. The system is off.
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Are you still frustrated with the way the Democrats are countering the Republicans?
Yes, I feel like Democrats have tried every political strategy except for courage, you know, and
the Democrats have tried every political strategy except for courage. Say that again. Say it again. The Democratic Party have tried every political strategy except for courage. I 100% agree.
I'm on record as saying the four things.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think there's four things that need to be done to preserve democracy. You know, one is get rid of the filibuster so you can properly legislate.
Manchin won't have it.
That's right.
And Kirsten Sinema, too.
That's right.
So it's not his fault.
Again, you heard what, did you hear what Joy just did there? She said Manchin won't have it. You see who's really in power? She goes, Manchin won't have it. It's not his fault. There she goes, coming in, making excuses for Joe Biden. And Joy was supposed to be the Bernie supporter, mind you. See how it works?
That's right. One is expand the Supreme Court. Got to protect voting rights, and you got to prosecute everybody involved with the insurrection on January 6th. It takes courage to vote to get rid of the filibuster, but it also takes courage to call out people like Joe Manchin, to call out people like Kirsten Sinema, and let us, the general public, know those are the people blocking progress in this party.
You feel they're not doing?
Yes, it takes courage to do those things, Charlamagne, but I think you know as well as I do, the reason why they're not doing it is not just because of courage, it's also because of money. They're doing exactly what their donors want them to do. That's what this is about. They're not going to say that on this show, though. They're not going to say that on The View. They're not going to talk about the money. They're just going to say, oh, it's a lack of courage, but there's so much money involved, so much money invested. Big part of the problem.
Doing that enough?
Absolutely not. Like, I mean, you know, Bernie Sanders was one of the first, you know, high-profile people in that party to do it last week. You know, AOC has been doing it. People like Nina Turner have been doing it. But it's just like, we need, that's what I was actually trying to get the vice president to do, to point us in the right direction.
In West Virginia, could there be a Democrat that's not in the Joe Manchin mold who gets elected? Because listen, Joe Manchin.
Is she serious? She just asked the question, in West Virginia, could there be a Democrat that is not in the Joe Manchin mold that could get elected? Hello? Paula Jean Swearengin ran against Joe Manchin. Where were you then, Anna? You were too busy saying vote blue no matter who. That's where you were. I can't believe they're even asking this question right now. I can't believe they're entertaining this question. This is ridiculous.
She could easily become a Republican. And if he becomes a Republican today,
lose another
I'll tell you so what.
You
You don't lose another seat. You lose control of the Senate.
You're not getting anything done now. So if he becomes a Republican, who cares?
You got Ketanji Jackson-Brown on the Supreme Court.
That's the same thing. It's a numbers game, right? Even Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court. Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court. It's great to have her there, but it's still a numbers game. So it's still a 6-3 conservative majority. So I don't even want to put the pressure on that system.
So if it's actually a numbers game, as Charlamagne is saying, as he believes, then why is it so great to have Ketanji Brown there if it really doesn't make a difference? Do you see? This is where IDPOL comes in. This is where the identity politics comes in. They're letting you know they think it's okay to have Ketanji Brown there because of representation. First African-American woman on the Supreme Court. Okay, great. But he just told you that it's a numbers game. So having her there doesn't do anything in reference to the numbers. But I still think it's okay to have her there. See? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. That's a big problem. So I'm still baffled by the fact that they're actually pretending like Joe Manchin did not have a challenger. They didn't even mention Paula Jean Swearengen's name.
because when things don't go right, they'll be pointing the blame at her when it's 6 other people taking back all of our rights on that Supreme Court.
So tell me exactly what you think they can do, not what you'd like them to do, but what they actually, in your opinion, can do.
Well, they could put the pressure on people like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to vote to get rid of the filibuster.
Do you think that they haven't been doing that? Wait. Do you think that they haven't been up there? I can't say it like that.
Say it.
Here comes in Whoopi Goldberg to defend the Democratic Party. Watch this. What can they do? Not what you want them to do. That's what she's telling you guys. What can they do? Do you think they haven't been doing that in terms of putting pressure on them?
I forgot we're on television, not on the radio. Because on your show I can say anything. But do you think, because the thing that bothers me more than anything is that people can do what they can do. It's like Obama, whether you liked him or not, he got stuff done he could get done. It's not.
What did he get done, Whoopi? You see what I mean? Whoopi's another one. She's another one. Obama, he got things done that he could get done. There were things that he could have gotten done that he chose not to pursue. He could have codified Roe v. Wade into law and he chose not to pursue it. Let's not sit here and pretend like Obama didn't have, the House and the Senate the first 2 years. Whoopi. She's another sheep herder for the Democratic Party. She tries to say she's independent, but she's another sheep herder.
Like he wasn't sitting around eating bonbons, smoking Cuban cigars.
Yeah.
The man was working his tail off trying to get stuff done. So I want to know what you think, and then I'm going to ask you one more question. What you think they should be doing right now, and when are you going to run?
Me? Please. No way.
That is a standard Democrat talking point. What do you think they could get done? And then they'll throw it back to you and say, oh, well, when are you going to run? See, this is something I know that they do with the Democratic Party. Anytime you criticize them, especially you attack them from the left, they come at you and they say, oh, well, when are you going to run? Because they still want people to believe that the problem is the individual, not so much the problem is the system. And I listened to this entire conversation on The View, and the entire time they are looking at this the wrong way. They are looking at it as though it is the individuals that is the problem. It's not an individual problem. It is a systemic problem. It's the system that is designed, that is in place, that makes sure that nothing gets done for the American people. And then what you do, you get a couple of people like Whoopi Goldberg, other Black celebrities, Black faces in high places to continue to make excuses for the Democratic Party, to continue to make you think that they're doing everything that they can do so that you continue to vote for them. They're sheep herders. And they're really good about doing that with people like Whoopi, people that have a large audience, people that everyone know. This is why I tell you, when it comes to like electoralism, you got to be careful with a lot of these celebrities. They're doing what they're paid to. This is what they're supposed to do. They're paid to keep you in. Terrible.
I mean, what they should be doing is what we're saying they should do. Vote to get rid of the filibuster so you can properly legislate. Then you expand the Supreme Court. That's how you protect voting rights. And we need to be out here in these streets putting pressure on, the DOJ to prosecute everybody who was involved in the attempted coup of this country on January 6th. If those 4 things.
Now that right there, he had the first part right, got the second part wrong. Charlamagne said we need to be out in the streets and putting pressure on these people. And I was like, yes. And then he continued and he talked about what happened in January. No, we need to be out in the streets to put pressure on these people, on these politicians for healthcare for people in this country, to cancel student loan debt, to fix the education system, to get people things like real benefits like paid family leave, actual living wage. Forget the $15 minimum wage. We're moving beyond that now. That's what we need to be out in the streets putting pressure on people to do. He didn't go that route, though. He decided not to go that route. Oh, I think I got a lag here. I don't know if I'm moving or not. Can you guys still see me in the chat? I don't know if people can see me or not. Oh, okay. I guess it's just on my end. Anywho, they decided, not to go that route. He, again, is using a Democrat establishment talking point. He's sounding just like CNN and MSNBC. Why do you think they bring someone like him on? That's why they'll let Charlamagne come on to The View, because he's going to give you the same talking points as MSNBC and CNN, and he'll throw in a little bit of edginess, but it'll always be in favor of the narrative that they want. That's why they bring him on. At the end of the day, he's still going to keep you in the Democratic Party too. You guys see how it works? So that's what's been happening. That's what's been going on. So people like him he's just as much a part of the problem. Now, he'll name names and call people out, but he's still going to make excuses for the Democratic Party, and that's what they want to hear. Now, I'm not going to play too much of The View. I think I have... Yeah, I'm not going to play too much of it because you can't get the copyright on that. But you guys see where this is going. You see the direction that it's heading in. They need people like him and Whoopi to keep Black people in, especially African Americans, to keep them in the Democratic Party. They got to have those faces there to tell you to do it. Why didn't Charlamagne say we need to be out in the streets to fight for health care? Why didn't Charlamagne say that part? Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Courage and conviction, plus folks like in The View and Reformist Left, appease and enable. We need to call them out and leave them blowing in the wind. Thank you so much for that super chat, AJF. Bad Cookie said, see, I'm telling you guys, that is going to be the fear tactic the Dems will use. They have a majority in the Supreme Court, the reps, will in the House, and the Senate in November. They will scare out their voters again. Captain Obvious said the Dems are not weak or cowardly or stupid. That is too easy of an excuse. The truth is the Dems are only focused on maximizing fundraising profits. 100%. Right back at you, Captain Obvious. Right back at you. Okay, Eric, I'll take the comments on Rockfin, and then I got to head out because I am losing connection. All right. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Sab, I know Jessica personally. Remember when I said New York State Dems make AOC look like Lindsay? She is one of them. She came in with AOC, and who Cynthia pushed as part of the IDC Independent Democratic Conference challengers that were primarying Cuomo, Dems to be the mansion of the New York State Senate. Who'd go to Albany to caucus with GOP but come back to districts as Dems? Ramos and 7 others beat Cuomo Dems. Remember when AOC took undue credit, blame for nixing that Amazon deal Cuomo was trying to do when they wanted to put up a tech center regentrifying Queensbridge projects because they were sure as hell not going to get those jobs? That was Jessica, who was out there with the other progressive New York City and New York State lawmakers with unions pushing back against Amazon. She's head of the Senate Labor Committee. That might explain why I saw her and Smalls walking up the block together in Albany, wondering what was cooking. Apparently, the Warehouse Worker Protection Act requiring Amazon and other companies operating warehouses to provide workers with docs of their production quotas and notify them to any of the changes to expectations, and prohibiting companies from imposing quotas that prevent workers from taking meal and restroom breaks. Government must resign. Governor must resign. Thank you so much for that, Roger Meadows. Yeah, so they're doing it again, you guys. They're doing it again. They're going to complain just enough about the Democrats to make sure that the audience doesn't think that they're completely 100% simping for them. But they're also going to blame other people, and they're going to make excuses for the Democratic Party. And come November, they're going to tell you to continue to vote for them. And come 2024, they're going to tell you to continue to vote for them. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. It's true. And now you see, even with someone like Charlamagne, you see it. Oh, Eric said, I think Roger meant the governor needs to sign the bill. Okay, thanks. All right, guys, I am heading out. I've had a long day and I am a little beat. But he had the right idea with get your feet in the street, get out in the street, but he didn't attach it to the right cause. And that's the problem. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. If you didn't get a chance to do so, please go watch that interview that I did with Rokana. I think it's very telling. So check that out. Let me know what you think. I'm off tomorrow, guys, so I won't be here tomorrow, but I'll be back on Thursday evening and Friday evening. Thursday, I'm doing a call-in show at 3:30, and I'll do my second call-in show Friday after my live stream. So I did wear a pilgrim. I don't know. I honestly think my husband has on, he put on his mobile hotspot, and I think I put on my mobile hotspot, and I think that's what messed things up. But anywho, you guys don't need to know all that. Have a good night, guys. Keep up the fight.